Here we go. We are here with our brand new collection from Crafters Companion. It's called Seize the Day, and it is full of all that nautical feel. This is what you're going to be getting, but you want to see what is inside. You've got over 80 elements when it comes to this Seize the Day collection. Beautifully packaged, as you know by now. But what we've got is we've got our little welcome card that we can see here telling you it Seize the Day, and your little note from Sarah too. Now, not only that, this is all the incredible goodies that you're going to be getting. You're going to be getting your stamps and your dies. Now, look at these ones here. You've got that scroll work. You've got your sentiment. You've got 3 of your sentiments, but not only that, you've then got your die to go with it that you can see. So beautifully cuts out the stamp from that scroll. Not only that, you're then going to be getting the ships. You're going to be getting the wheel as well. If I bring in my piece of card for you to see the difference between them both, look at that size that you've got from that nautical ship. You've got your dies in total with the Seize the Day sentiment as well. Not only that, you're then going to be getting all of these goodies that you can see here. Look at the size of that lighthouse. You've got that huge lighthouse with that die as well. Great silhouette die to use on its own, but of course they work well together. Then what we're going to do is we're going to show you all the embellishment stamp and dies that you've got. You've got the seashells here. You've got some small ones. You've got some of your larger ones. If we bring in the actual sentiment stamps that you can see there, the embellishment ones, larger, smaller, lots of different creativeness that you can do with these. And then if you want to bring in with the dies, you've got the dies as well to work with them. Not only that, we're giving you sizable scene stamps there. So you've got the ship there that's in there. When it comes to the side, you've got them within the sand. You've got them, of course, with the sentiments as well. Then you've got your actual compass as well. So you've got all of these included when it comes to building that scene. Then what we're going to be giving you is these dies. Now, we've got our knitted rope here. Now, you've got a good sizable die. That one is 7 inches in length. So you've got that with all the embossed detail. Then what we're giving you is the nautical accessories. So you've got your planks. You've then got your anchor, your starfish. You've got all of these that you can start to build up that Seize the Day scene. Then we're going to be giving you nautical elements when it comes to the stencil. Now, you might want to come along and you might want to use little bits on its own. You might want to use the whole lot on its own, but you've got that options. You've got the rope. You've then, of course, got the seashells. You've then got that compass. You've got the bubbles there as well. So you've got all of these little elements that you can cherry pick if you want to. Then that's one stencil. What we're going to do is we're going to give you the ocean waves. Now, this is another one that you're going to be using maybe in that backdrop, but maybe you're going to bring your inks. Maybe you're going to spritz your colours through. Maybe you're going to go along with all of your glitter paste. It's up to you, but you've got that one there within the waves of the sea. That is your stencils. Then what about your embossing folder? You've got your 4x6 2D embossing folder. This one's already set in that scene underneath the waves that you can see with the jellyfish. You've got the reef, you've got the fish, and of course you've got all these bubbles as well. Simply emboss, sentiment, that's your card done. So that is your folder. Then what we're going to be giving you is all of the papers. We're giving you the papers and we're giving you your linen cardstock. Now, when it comes to the actual papers, you've got all of these, an absolute abundance of your papers. 24 in total. These are double-sided. Now, what you're going to get is 12 different designs, but then what you're going to get is 2 of each. These are all on a mat, so if you want to ink, you want to spritz, you want to tear, you want to distress, you can do all of that. Maybe you want to come and stamp and die cut with all of the stamps and the embellishment dies that you've got, you can do that. But you've got all of these included for you, double-sided, as I say. And then last but by no means least, we've got the linen cardstock. 8x8 in size. You can see the beautiful colour tones that you've got there. Works perfectly for underneath the sea. The baby blue, you've got your mint greens, and then you've got your deeper blues as well. 8x8 linen cardstock. That's all there combined inside that whole collection. All of that comes combined within your brand new collection. It is, of course, Seize the Day. You can see everything theme-wise that you've got within that collection. collection, and when it comes to that collection, you can make some of the most prettiest dimensional cards that you can see there. And if you want to see how to make that card there, follow what I'm away to do next. When it comes to our Seize the Day collection, you can do so many beautiful cards. You can do projects, you can do home decor, but what about fold back concept cards? And that's exactly what we're going to do here. We're going to combine many of the elements and we're going to create this Z fold card. Now, to start, what we're going to do is we're going to do a little bit of inking when it comes to one of the stencils. So I'm going to bring in the actual waves, this one being the stencil of the waves. So just bring in a bit of black card just so you can see. You've got lots of different depth. You've got the actual waves, so you can see that subtle waves, but then you've got more of the powerful waves at the top there. But I'm going to bring in a couple of pieces of our watercolour card here. Now for these ones, what I've done is I've cut one of them to 1.5 inches by 3.5 inches, and then two of the squares I've cut to 1.5 by 1.5 inches, so that's for both of them. And then I'm going to bring this stencil in with a couple of my water reactives. And we're going to go for the blue. We're going to go for the ocean blue, and we're going to go for the midnight as well. And what we're going to do is we're just going to overlay our stencil. Now, if you've got one of our repositionable sprays, of course you can use that. I'm not going to. I'm just going to sit it over my cardstock. I'm going to bring in the ocean blue and the midnight, and I've got my two blending tools. I'm using the rectangle ones. You could use the circle. You could, of course, use the finger dauber if you want to. But all that I'm doing is I'm just tapping up my ink with my blending tool, and all that I'm going to do is I'm just pouncing. So I'm not blending over the top. I'm just pouncing because I don't want it to be a perfect blend. I want to kind of have that little bit of texture, not only from the application of the ink, but because we're using watercolour card, we're going to, of course, get that textured feel anyway. And if it does move out, again, don't worry about it. We want to create that rustic effect when it comes to, of course, the waves and the sea. And then all that I'm doing is I'm going to go in with the midnight here. So once again, I'm just inking up, I'm holding down, and I'm just going to go into the corners with the midnight, pressing with my fingers to make sure it's nice and secure, and then I'm going to go back in once again with our ocean blue, and we're just going to blend those two together. And when I say blend, I don't mean in circular motions like we're used to, I just mean pouncing and dabbing just to get that blend perfectly together, and then we're going to lift, and we can see there we've got the waves. You can see that we've got the waves there within that one here. And then all that we need to do is exactly the same for the other two. So I'm just going to set that one out the way for now. And if you want to, you can just do both of them together. I'm going to go in one of them first, and we're going to go in with our ocean blue. Once again, we're just going to dab. We're just going to dab to get that colour into position. We're just going to then just move my finger so we can get into each of the corner. That being the ocean blue, then we're going to go back in once again with we're going to go in with our midnight and see how my card's moved. I'm not bothered, I'm not concerned, because if it does slip ever so slightly, it doesn't matter. We're going to get that movement, we're going to get that feel from, of course, the waves and the water. I'm going to move that out the way, and then there's one of them. And then all that we need to do, go in with our last square here, and I'm just going to repeat that. I'm just going to go in and dab, either tape down with your low tack tape or your repositionable spray if you feel more secure doing that, or just hold with your fingers like I've been doing here. Pouncing, getting that colour on, as I said before, between the actual texture of the dabbing and the pouncing with the ink pad as well as the watercolour card. What we're then going to get is we're going to get a nice rustic feel when it comes to the waves and the movement that we can see within these ones there. That's the three of them. That is all that we need to do when it comes to the actual panels for our actual kinetic feel of our card. And then what we'll then do is we're going to bring in a piece of that blue linen cardstock that we've got within the set here. I've created just a little matting layer. I used my guillotine for that one, bringing in our little square and bringing in our little square that we can see here. So we've got our 3, and that's just a little 1/4 inch border all the way round. What we can then do is bring in our card blank. So this is a 4x6 card blank, and what I've done is I've just folded in half when it comes to my actual scoreboard. And because this is 4 inches, I've just scored at the 2-inch mark, folded back. That's what then creates our fold back. I'm going to go in with my either your bone folder or your scoring tool, and we're just going to give that a really, really good burnish. I'm going to take just a little wipe here just to take a little bit of that excess ink off my glass mat so we don't transfer that through. And then we need to bring in our strip. Now this one, what I have done is I've cut it to 4 by 2 inches. So it's just off the base of a card blank, and then folded that one back as well. So this is where we're getting that Z fold feel from our actual card blank. What we can then do is bring these layers in here. So that's going to be our 4x6 fold back. This one here is going to be our strip. So this is the way that it's going to go. So if I hold it upright, you can see there, we've got the long piece here to the left-hand side, and then you've got that kinetic fold out to the right-hand side. Bringing in our tape runner, you can use whichever adhesive you feel comfortable or whatever one is your own preference. I'm using our tape runner, working around the edges. We're just going to make sure the waves are pointing in the right direction, and that's going to sit onto one panel. Let's then bring in our 2 little square panels, and we're going to do exactly the same, layering all of these up first before we start to bring it together. So we're going to set that into there, and then we're going to bring in our last square, work all the way around, and add that onto our last piece. So then there we've got the flow of the waves when it comes to the movement of our Z fold card. So that's that bit. What we then need to do is bring in some of our layers here. Now I've brought in our layers from that gorgeous 8x8 paper pad that we get included within Seize the Day. Now for this pattern paper, what I've done is I have cut it to 3.5 by 5.5 inches, 3.5 by 5.5 inches, and we can see using my white multi-purpose, I've given myself just a little fine matting layer, and then I've brought in the blue and I've cut that to 3 3/4 to 5 3/4. That's going to be our perfect matting layer for the top. And before we do that, we've gone in and we need to do our panel as well, because of course when we've got that fold back, we need to matting layer for that panel. So for this one, what we have done is we've gone in and we've cut that at 1.5 inches by 5.5. Once again, little piece of a matting layer. That's just white multi-purpose, which most of us have all got, and we can start to assemble that onto our blue. That's 1 3/4 by 5 3/4. We're going to then add our tape, and we're going to matting layer these ones on, bringing it in. When we're going to then layer that on. If you are using a wet adhesive, then because of this cardstock, because it's a non-coated cardstock and it's a linen cardstock, you're going to want to use your all-purpose. You can use your tacky if you want to, but if you want to use your all-purpose, then you can do with this collection because it's an uncoated. That's going to mat and layer onto there. And you can see we've already got that design all throughout the back. So you can see that you've got, of course, all that textured feel. You've got a map right in the background. You've got that pre-inky feel already done. You don't need to do anything else. You can if you want to. That's what the stencils are there for. But you can keep it as it is, and you've got that beautiful design ready to mat and layer onto your card. So we're going to go in and we're going to add these layers that we've just done there a moment ago. That can then go onto our back layer. So we're going to layer all of these on first before we come in with that Z fold strip that we've done. We're just going to press that in. We're going to come along with our next one, and then we're just going to add our tape on into here. That one, because the fold back is going to be on the front, we just need to make sure that we're putting it in the right way, which is going onto that side here. So let's press that in. We're going to give that a really good press, and then there's the start of our Z fold. You can put a strip in there in the middle. It's entirely up to yourself. And then what we will end up doing just shortly is that will then get attached onto our card blank, and you can see where the actual card, the Z fold card, is starting to come together. Now, before we do all of that, let's do a little bit of cutting and colouring. So I've got some of our Neenah cardstock here, and we're going to go in with some of the dies. Now this one we're going to go in with the nautical accessories, and we're going to add in a couple of these. So I'm going to go in with that woodwork, the plank work there, and then we're going to use that one as well. Not only that, we're then going to come along with Sail Away. Now with the Sail Away, you've got stamps to go with it. So let's bring in once again our Neenah cardstock, and that one, what we're going to do is we're going to go and add that on. We need to add that one on as well, and then we're going to start to do some cutting. So by bringing in my low tack tape, we're going to press that on, we're going to hold that on, and then we're going to do the same with the woodwork here. And for this, because you've got your stamp to go with it, because you can see it's quite a solid piece of metal, for this one it will be easier to actually die cut and then stamp after, which we'll show you in a moment. But for these, we're going to go in with our base plate. I'm using our G2. Now these will fit in with your Gemini Mini and your MIDI as well. But we're going to go base plate, frosted, magnetic, and then top plate. We're going to line that up, and then we're just going to feed that into our Gemini. And the reason that I've used Neenah cardstock for this is we're going to do a little bit of alcohol colouring. If you don't have Neenah, you can use your white multi-purpose, but of course with alcohol colouring, the best one is always Neenah. So then we're going to take out these here. So let's take out that one, and let's take out that one. It gives you all of the debossed detail already in there. You don't need to do any additional embossing with your embossing mat, but you can maybe just see, I'm just going to tilt it just there, and we're going to go in still, and then you'll start to see in a moment you've got your embossed detail. You can see that coming out there. So that's debossed detail already done in when it comes to the panels. We're then going to take all of these bits out, so pop them out, and then we're going to go in and take that one out as well. So let's just pop these out, and even these, use these as stencils, ink through them, spritz through them. Think of the ways in which you can use them. But let's take them out, and then we're just going to take all of these ones out the way, ready to colour. So to colour with the actual woodwork, what we're going to do within this one here is we're going to come along and we're going to do some of our browns. So let's bring in some of our browns here. So we're going to use earth brown, and then we're also going to do in earth brown shades. Bring in a piece of cardstock so that we can colour onto. Move that out the way, bring these ones in, and all that we really want to do is just a little bit of sketching. So this one being the earth brown blend. So we're going to start at one end, and we're going to use that light tone. So we're just going to colour into that right hand side, and I'm going to come maybe just about, not quite halfway in. I'm going to flip, and we're going to then do exactly the same on the opposite side. We're just laying down that light tone of the earth brown blend. We're going to go back in now to the deep tone, and then we're just going to add that deep tone in there to the opposite side before we come in with the mid-tone. We're then just going to go into the mid-tone. We're going to blend that out, and we're going to come all the way along, twist, blend that out, come all the way along, and then what we're going to do is we're just going to go into the middle there with that light tone. We're going to blend that out. Then what we're going to do is we're going to bring in our earth brown shades. Now I only want the lightest tone of the shades, and that's EB5. And then what we're just going to do is right into, just into the corner there, and then we're going to do exactly the same into the corner just there. What we've then got is we've got that highlight that you can see there. If you wanted to as well, you can then just leave little white areas, preserving that highlight when it comes to the woodwork. And then you're going to do that twice, which is then going to give us this effect just here. So you've got these two there. Then what we're going to do is let's do a little bit of colouring with these two. So we're going to do some stamping and colouring. So let's bring in our stamping mat. I'm going to bring in my large stamping platform because this is going to really help when it comes to something really small and detailed like that. So let's bring that in. What we can then do is then move that out the way. On the back, we're going to put a little bit of our dotty tape. So we're going to put the dotty tape because with your magnetic platform, as you can see here, you can't add your magnetic discs anywhere because of course you're not going to get that perfect stamped impression. So therefore, by holding in with your dots, it means what we can then do is it's been held into place where you need it to be. We're going to come in with the stamp and then we're going to overlay the stamp following the outline that we can see here. Once I've got that into the right position, I'm then going to come back in with my stamping platform. I'm going to press and then release. So my actual die cut is still in the same position. My stamp is still in the same position. It's not moved, and it's a nice, easy way to get a good stamped impression if you've got a really small die cut and small detail within the stamp. We're then going to let that settle. We're going to come along. We're going to press that in. That was Noir Black Alcohol Proof ink pad. Release, and then there we go. We've got our perfect stamped impression from our die cut. We're just going to bring in our pokey tool, lift, and then that's how you get it. Something that's so detailed with that perfect stamp. So that is that one. Let's pop that one to the side just here. What we'd then do is we would come along with our dark red blend and the dark red shades. Not only that, we would then bring in some of our brown grey blend, and then we're just going to colour in that one. And then if we bring this one in, that one, what we would then do is we would use our earth brown shades and also our earth brown blend just to give that a nice little colour. We'll just do a tiny, tiny little bit of colouring when it comes to these ones to show you how these come together. But by simply going in with the earth brown blend, we're going to go into sections. So I'm going to go in with that lighter tone first. We're going to go into the detail. We're going to come down, coating that with our light tone, and then we're just going to come in and we're going to create highlight. We're going to add that in by bringing in the shades as well, and I only want to have that dark tone of the shades. Bringing that in, working that in, pulling it down, where you would continue all the way round. Once you've done all the way round, you're going to have one, and we're going to do that 3 times that we can see here, and then that is how that one will look once we've used our dark red shades, also our brown grey blend. Simple bit of colouring in. These are the main components. Last 2 bits that we need to do before we assemble the card, and that is bringing in that ship. So we're bringing in our Neenah cardstock. We're going to bring back in our stamping platform, and we're going to bring in the stamp as well. So this time we can add in our magnetic discs. We're going to bring in the actual sail away, and we're going to pop that one onto our card, Neenah cardstock. We're going to bring the stamping platform in. We're then going to bring in our Noir Black. We're going to press, and then we're going to turn, and then we're going to stamp this one out. So let's ink up. So just inking up with our alcohol proof ink pad, because we're going to be using our tri-blends once again, which are alcohol base. Stamp, press that in, release, and then look at that detail that you've got. Beautiful. You've got all those highlight lines as well to help you to colour in. But we'll do one last bit of stamping. Let's set that out the way. We're going to bring in another piece of our Neenah cardstock. We're going to pop that on, layer on with the discs, holding it into place. Then what we're going to do is we're going to bring in that incredible, that beautiful scroll work that we can see here. Sentiment scroll. So we're going to use the actual scroll. We're going to stamp that first. So we're going to pop that on. We're going to layer that with our stamping platform, press that in, release, and then we're going to ink up with our Noir Black. Give that a good coverage. Do that one first, being the scroll. Then we're going to come in with the sentiment afterwards. So let's stamp, press that in, release. Now, if you've got additional stamps that you want to use, you can absolutely do that. But then what we need to do is choose our sentiment. So for our sentiment, we're going to go in with, shall we go in with, let's do, you can't control the wind, but you can adjust the sails. Lovely sentiment, 3 to choose from. And that is then just going to sit nicely into the middle. So we're going to do that scroll first, then the sentiment. We're going to tap, press, apply that little bit of pressure, and bringing in our Noir Black. That can go into the middle, press it in, and then you'll see what we've then got is we've got, you can't control the wind, but you can adjust the sails right into the middle there, ready for you to colour or ink or stamp with additional colours. Bring that in, and then we can then just start to finish these ones off. So with the actual, you can't control the wind, but you can adjust the sails. We're going to go in with the die as well. You've got the coordinated die with it, which sits nicely over the top. So we're just going to sit that over the top. Same with our sails. So if we bring in the sails with the ship, bringing in the die, that just sits over the top, like so. Bringing in our low tack tape, holding it down. So we're just going to then get that into position just here. Because these are a larger die, it's a lot easier to follow around the outline of the ship and the scroll. So for this one, we're just going to hold in tape. We're going to bring in our plates, line up on our plates. We're going to do them both together. We're going to do same plate configuration. So it's our 2 cutting plates, frosted shim and our magnetic shim. Cuts the detail. And of course, although you've got the die to go with it, does not mean that you have to use the die. If you just want to use the stamp, you can do. If you want to do things such as masking techniques, you can do. But we are going to do a little bit of colouring, inking, move all these out the way. What we've then got is our ship ready to colour, and then we've got our scroll that we're going to ink. So for the scroll, water reactive ink, we're going to go in with the Fryar Brown. And then I'm just going to ink up with my blending tool. We're then just going to start on one side, and then we want to have a heavy colour on that outer edge. And then what will happen is we start to blend within the centre. It'll be a light Fryar Brown within the centre, but then what we're going to have is we're going to have that deep tone on the outer edge. So let's just blend that in, keeping it with the one colour. You want to add more depth with Seal Brown, you can do, but keeping it really simple with that one. Let's go into the edge, all the way round, really start to get the edge of the scroll nice and dark. And then there we go. That's our scroll work that you can see there with a perfect blend over the top. Then we're going to come along and then we're going to do just a very, very quick bit of colouring with the sails, and I'll bring in one that I've already done. For this one, we're going to go in with our red blend, so that's our dark red blend. We're also going with the dark red shades. Not only that, we're going to go in with a little bit of blue as well, true blue. So for the sails, let's go in with the light tone, and I'm just going to build that colour with that light tone first. So I'm going to come down where I've got those highlight lines already there on the sails. So we're following the guides that are already there. Going to add down from the top to the bottom. I'm going to keep a little bit of that white highlight, preserving that highlight towards the bottom just here. I'm then going to flip to the darker side, and then I'm going to come along all the way down where we've got those highlight lines, blending that in, and then we're going to go into the mid-tone and blend that out all the way to the top, blend, and then we're going to blend back again with that light tone. To finish off, what we're going to do is let's just come along the bottom there, Then I'm going to go into the dark red shades. And what I'm going to use is I'm going to use the lightest of the shades. And we're just going to use the tip, just the tip of the Tri-Blend pen with the nib into the corner. And that's all that I'm going to do to create that highlight. Just a little bit here with the base. The base of our ship, we're going to go in with the True Blue. And then once again, what I'm doing is I'm going to go and I'm following those highlight lines that are already there. Use them. They're there for a reason. So use them to help build that blend of colour. I'm going to go in with that darker tone. We're going to blend that out towards the base just there. Cross to the mid. Blend that out. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to come along with that mid-tone, now into the light tone. And then what we would do is we would add a little bit of earth brown blend to finish off. And that's how it's going to look. And then now, all that we need to do, let's bring all of these components in together. Let's bring the sails into the ship, the woodwork. We're going to come in as well. All of these ready to build. And then we need our carte blanche. So for this, let's then bring our carte blanche in. And then for what we want to do, the reason we didn't want to do that Z-fold strip to start with is we want to create a little border down the side that we can see here. But we want to hide that. So that's why we wanted to do that last. So let's bring in our tape runner. And we're going to bring the tape runner in and add our strip of tape. We're going to pick that up and we're going to go down. So it's a good way to show, even although the panels may be one length, nothing's stopping you from extending the length of the panels, and it's about hiding the connections. So now that we've got those two where I want them, what we're then doing is when it comes to our actual Z-fold strip, onto that back of the square, we're going to add our tape. And then I'm going to do the same on this side here. So we just want roughly that same square size. We're going to then bring this in, and then I'm going to cross that over. So we're going to cross over where we've got the connection of those panels. So we're going to press that in. We're going to fold that back, and then we're going to lay that over. And then there we've got our Z-fold effect. Then it's a case of bringing in these elements, build your card, finish your project. So we're going to do a little bit of shape in with the scroll and the ship. The ship, we're going to bring in some foam pads here, just a couple along the base. That's going to go into the base of the ship, and that is then we're going to sit that just to the top there and press that in. On the back of the scroll, what I've done, shaped it slightly with my fingers and just added one foam pad to the back. That one, what we can then do is we can then just tuck that in. So we're just going to tuck it in so it's popping out. And then for all of these bits, I'm going to use my dotty tape runner for these ones. So the dots can go into the back there, and we're going to press that there. We're going to open it up. We're going to bring in the last couple. We're going to add that on there and pop that on there. Then we're coming in with that one into place there. And then to finish off, we're going to add our dots onto the back. That one can go up into place, press that in, and then there we go. We've got that super cool, fun Z-fold card using our Seize the Day collection, where we've done some mats and layers, we've done stamping, we've done cutting, we've done colouring as well, and that is just one of many cards and projects that you can be making from our brand new Crafters Companion collection, which is called Seize the Day. to our brand new collection, Seize the Day. Of course, you can do your smaller cards, you can do concept cards, you can do home decor, but you can do your larger cards as well. For instance, this one here, this one being 5.5 by 7.5, but look at the dimension that you're getting. Look at that theme that you've got from that Seize the Day collection. And to make this card, we're going to start to combine some of the elements all together. So therefore, let's start with the beginning and the mats and layers. So I've got some of these mats and layers already done, ready to just build up. Now when it comes to that pattern paper, I've cut it to 4.5 inches by 6.5 inches, and I've given myself just a really, really thin mat and layer, and that's just using our white multi-purpose cardstock. I've used our guillotine for that, or of course you can use our paper trimmer. But I'm adding my adhesive tape runner all the way around the back, and then we're going to come in some of that gorgeous green tone. This one I've cut to 5 by 7, and this is the linen that you've got included as well. Remember, 8 by 8, and you get your 3 different colours. Popping that one on, and then what we're going to do, and on the back of that one, we're going to add more of our tape, add our tape all the way around, and then we're going to add that to a layer of the blue linen, and that one I've cut to 5.25 by 7.25. So keeping the mats and layers really simple at 1/4 inch increments. We're going to press that in, I'm going to turn that around, and although we can just see a little bit of the script in the font there, it really can go anyway, and that's the good thing about the way the papers have been designed. There's no right or wrong direction as such. But what we can then do is we can then bring our tape runner on, round the back, add that onto our card blank, which is 5.5 by 7.5. And what I've done as well is I've done a top fold or a tent fold. That can then sit into place there. And then the last layer that we're going to do for now is I've taken another piece of the pattern paper and I've cut that to 3.25 by 5.25. And once again, added just a little mat and layer from my white multi-purpose cardstock. And for this one, we're going to start to build up our height and dimension. So to do that, I'm going to use my foam pads. You might want to use your glue gel, or you might just want to keep it flat, but you can absolutely do that. There's no right or wrong. It's whichever way that you want to use and create your collection. So I'm just going to put that pretty much bang center into the middle, press that in. Now that's the basis. We're going to start to build our design from the Seize the Day elements into the front of the card. So let's sit that out the side for now. I'm going to come along with some of our blue linen cardstock that we've got here, and we're going to go in with a knotted rope here. So it's a big sizable die. It's 7 inches in length, this one here. And what you've got is you've got a lot of debossed detail all the way throughout. So we're going to layer that onto our linen cardstock. We're going to then tape that into position, and then we're going to tape that down to secure it as well. What we can then do is bring in our base cutting plate. So to cut these out, what we're going to do is we're going to use our base plate, we're going to use our frosted, our magnetic, and our top plate. We're going to feed that through our Gemini. Now, if you're using the Gemini, of course you can use any other die cutting machines. These will work die-wise with any die cutting machine. But when it comes to the G2, because you've got the pressure, you're going to get some of that debossed detail already pushed through. But what I would recommend, still go in with your embossing mat. So to do that, and this is the way that I remember to do it, what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip it over on itself, and I'm going to release that top plate. So I'm just going to bring my die back into place here. I'm going to take any of the little residual pieces out. I'm going to then come in with my embossing mat. So we're going to pop that over the top. So essentially it's as if we are cutting into the embossing mat. You won't do. It's a magic material. You're not going to cut into it as long as you flip it back over and you take out your magnetic shim. Take your magnetic shim out. There is never a technique where you have both the magnetic shim and the embossing mat together. Does not exist. It's one or the other. So I've taken out the embossing mat and popped it into the base of my plate configuration. And we're going to run that through. And then I've just popped the actual magnetic shim to the side of me. This is then going to help to kind of emboss all of that detail. We're then going to pop these out here. So just take them out, pop that out, And then what we're going to get is we're going to get all of that embossed detail that we've got within that knitted rope. So that's one of them. Taking that lighter blue, I've done exactly the same. So just gone in, cut it and embossed it. And then what we're going to do is we're going to use our dotty tape runner and we're going to start to do a little bit of a drop shadow. But I want the lighter blue on top of that darker blue. So let's go in with our tape. And I'm just going to pull towards me because you've got some delicate lines there. So we're going to secure it with our finger. And then we're just going to add our dots on. Move my tape runner out the way. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to square that up. We're going to come along with the darker blue to the back. We're going to then press. We're going to move that in. I'm going to lift. And then we're going to manipulate it. So if we just want to cross that over so we've got that light drop shadow that we've got here. When happy, we're going to press so we can see we've got that depth. Now, not only that, what I'm then going to do is I'm going to come in with my brown grey blend from my Tri-Blend. It could be your Classique or it could be from your brush markers. And I'm going to go with the darkest tone, so at BG4. And all that I'm doing is just towards that left-hand side. I'm just going to come all the way down. It's really, really subtle. It's just to the very, very left-hand side, creating that additional shadow just all the way around. So it's kind of giving us a triple drop shadow, when in actual fact we've only done 2 die cuts. It's a little bit of a trickery in the eye using the darker tone of the brown grey. We're going to come down into there as well. It's ever so light, it's just the tip of the actual nib. We're going to come down into there. And then that's all that we're going to do when it comes to that one. So then that is our knitted rope that we can sit to the side. Then going to bring in our die set here that we've got the nautical accessories here. And for that, what we can then do is bring in a piece of our Neenah cardstock. And the reason I'm doing Neenah cardstock is because we're going to do some alcohol colouring over the top. So we're going to bring in some of these kind of wood panels. We're going to come in with these embellishments and the starfish. We're going to go in with the anchor as well. And we're going to secure them with our low tack tape. So take our tape and we're going to secure that. We're going to tape it down, holding it together. And you can see from the size of these, although I'm using the Gemini 2, you can absolutely use your Gemini Mini when it comes to these ones. So let's just get the end of my tape once again. Bring that in. Secure that down, and then we're going to run that one through with our plates. So when it comes to the plates, we're just going to use our base plate. We don't need our magnetic shim or our embossing mat. What we're going to do is we're just going to press and place. Base plate, we're going to go frosted, top plate. Because these are quite simplistic outer shape dies, you don't always need that pressure. So that's why I've taken out the magnetic shim for this one. So as that one comes out, what we can then do is then lift, release, and then all these little bits here are going to come out. So you're going to get some light deboss detail within these. You can run them through with your embossing mat if you want to, but I don't really want a lot of depth when it comes to the actual emboss. I want to keep it quite subtle. So we're going to take our pokey tool and pop them ones out. We're then going to come along with all of these bits. We're going to take the anchor and the starfish. We're going to take all these little pieces out here, pop them out with your pokey tool, and then we're going to come in with some of our Tri-Blends in a moment. But before we do that, what we're also going to do is we're going to come along with another piece of our Neenah cardstock. So if I bring my Neenah cardstock in here, remove my plates out the way, pop that there. We're going to move these bits out to colour just shortly. Bring that in, and then we're going to go in with that beautiful shine a light. So we've got our lighthouse here. Now with our lighthouse, what I would do is I would use my Noir Black alcohol proof ink pad, stamp that out using one of our stamping platforms, and that's what we're going to get. You're going to get that crisp design, you're going to get that crisp outline, and then you've got the dye to go with it as well. So therefore, what we can then do, now that we've got that stamped, we can do a little bit of colouring. We're going to do the colouring once we've done the die cutting. You might want to do the die cutting first, then colouring, or colouring and die cutting. It's entirely up to yourself, but I'm going to go along and use my die to place on the outer edge. We're going to then secure it. The reason that I like to stamp, die cut, and then colour, that is just in case any little mistakes happen. What I mean by that, there's nothing worse than you stamp it out, you spend all that time colouring, then you put your die over the top, and then for whatever reason, if it's not secured properly, and then it actually slips and it cuts into all that colouring that you've done. So therefore, if you do the stamping and then the cutting first, that then means you can then eliminate that worry. You've done the cut, and then you're ready to start colouring. So that's what we're doing within this one. So as that one comes out the other side of our Gemini, we're just going to pop that out, and then we've got our perfect cut from our lighthouse, ready to start colouring. So we're going to do just that. Bringing in a piece of scrap cardstock, and I'm going to go in with our dark red blend in our dark red shades. And we're going to start to colour a couple of these sections within the lighthouse. And because we've got that roundness, it's like that cylinder effect with the lighthouse, I'm going to start with the lightest tone first. I'm going to start from the left-hand side, and I'm going to come in as close to the centre as I can, and then I'm going to cross over to the right-hand side. I'm going to do exactly the same. So we're going to come in to just about that midway point. I'm going to come in a little bit more from that left-hand side. They're just about meeting and no more. Then we're going to go into the darker side of our dark red blend, and we're going to come down to the left-hand side. So where we've got the highlight lines that are already there within the stamp design, we've got all of that detail to follow. I'm going to do the same on the right-hand side. So we're going to go in with that darker tone. We're then going to flip into the mid-tone of our tri-blend. We're going to blend that out. So we're going to go in little circular motions to blend out. We're coming about 2/3 of the way in. And then as we get to where we ended with the light tone, we're just going to finish that off, back in with that light tone, blend out, and then we're going to go in with the dark red shades, and we're going to go in with DR5 and down the side, just really, really lightly down the side. And in actual fact, I'm going to go even darker. I'm going to go to DR7, and we're going to come right down to the left-hand side, in where we've got those highlight lines, down into the highlight lines there, and then I'm just going to come just under ever so slightly. So you can start to see you've got that shape coming when it comes to the lighthouse. I'm then going to chop over into my brown-grey blend, and for this one, we're going to go into the opposite. So we're going to tier it. So we're going to go with the brown-grey, the red, the brown-grey, the red. So for this next one, I'm going in with the brown-grey blend, and I'm going to go in with the lightest tone to start with. And we're just going to come in where we've got the highlight lines. We're going to blend that around. We're going to cross in, and then we're going to cross over. I'm going to keep that just with the light tone, because we're not going to do necessarily a huge 3-tone blend. All that I want is a couple of light and dark shades from our brown-grey blend. While we're in that same pen, we're going to colour in these little windows and the doors. So for that one, I'm going to go in there with the light. Let's do that red one as well. And then what we can then do is to really create drama within the window, we're going to go into the brown-grey shades, BG7, and what we're going to do is we're just going to come in just around there, in the corner, dipping down, creating that little bit of dark shade, that drama. So you can see we're starting to get that shading all the way around. And if you want to, you can go back in with the brown-grey shades, and then just add that little bit more. Once again, creating that shape, Start to blend that out. And then you're going to keep on going. You're going to keep on going, and then when you're finished, it's going to look like that. So you can see that shape that you've got, you can see that curvature that you've got from the lighthouse, and that is simply by using your tri-blend. Let's bring in our starfish. Let's come in with our burnt orange blend. And for this one, we're going to go in with the light tone. And we're just, essentially what we're doing is we're going to colour the whole of the starfish within that light tone of the orange to start with. It's on Neenah cardstock, so you're going to get that perfect blend. But if you don't have Neenah, you can use your white multi-purpose. So let's then add that light tone. And then what we're then going to do is just down some of the arms of your starfish. We're going to go in with that darker tone. So we're going into that darker shade of the burnt orange. We're then going to cross over into that mid-tone and lightly blend out. We're going to do that as well within each of them, following it all the way round, circular blend into the last one, and then we're going to go back into the light tone. We're just going to finish that off, work that in. What we've then got, as you can start to see, we're starting to get that shape as well from the starfish. We're going to move that one out the way just for a second, and then what we're going to do is we're going to come in. Now I've gone in, when it comes to all of these wood panels that we can see here, I've gone in with the brown yellows and just created that little bit of sketch. So all that I've done is just sketched back and forwards with my tri-blend that we can see here. I've gone in, coloured those ones in. So within that one, I've used the same red and also the brown grey for each of them. Bring that one in and that one in. And then of course, we can see we've got our stitched rope there. So we've got all of our components. The last thing that we need to do is bring in our sentiment. So if we go in with the sail away, and what we've got within that sentiment is it does say sail away. So I've cut that out within the green and also the blue. So we've got away and sail. So we've got sail away. So within these ones here, what you're going to get, it's one die, but it cuts separately that we can see within that one there. So if you want to then have them side by side, you can do. If you want to have one underneath, you can do. If you want to go in with one at an angle, both at an angle. So you've got that choice. It's one die, but a die cut separately, and we've done our drop shadow. That then means that we're ready to start building up our card. So we're going to come back in with our card base here. And for all of these wood panels, what I've got is I've already got foam pads on the back here. You can use your glue gel if you want to, or you can keep it completely flat. But we're going to go and we're going to start to build up that panelled effect at the side. It's about having all of that texture, it's being that tactile card. That's why if you can, do add a little bit of height and dimension. Even if it's a small amount, it doesn't have to be loads, but when it comes to the recipient receiving it, having all these different layers also gives the eye something else to focus on every single time. So we're just going to then start to build these ones up here. We're going to go in with the 4 that I've done there. We're going to add in another 4. And what to do as well is just offset them. You know, it doesn't need to be kind of parallel. Just go some to the left, some to the right. You know, you can go in at a little bit of a wonky angle if you want to. So that one I'm going to come further in there. And then what we can then do is come in with the last one. And then with this last one, I'm going to add it to the bottom. But let's just go just on a little bit of a wonk. Just on the wonk there. Make it look that natural look. Then we're going to come in with a lighthouse. So the lighthouse is going to go to the left-hand side. But what I want to do is I want to bring in our rope. So I want to hide my workings when it comes to the adhesive. So for that one, we're going to go onto the back. And when you're looking at it the right way, what I've done is I've put the dots, what are then going to be on the right-hand side. That's then going to sit, and we're going to cross that over our mid panel. So if we press that in, I'm keeping the top and the bottom, that free-flowing motion. I'm not going to secure that with my dot. You can do, but I like to have that motion when it comes to the rope within this sail away. So let's then bend with our fingers. We're going to bring back in our foam pads. We're going to add just a couple on to the back. These ones are quite thick foam pads. These ones here are 4mm in depth. So if you don't want them to be that thick, then you can cut them down to 3mm or even the 2mm foam pads. And then that one is going to cross over onto the rope. We're then going to come in with our sentiment. For our sentiment, let's add our dots on the back. And you've got a lot of light detail with this sentiment here, so be careful. Secure it with your finger or, secure it with your poke tool. We're just going to do the dots on one. That's the way. We're then going to come in with sail. We're going to do the same within this one. So let's add the dots onto there. And then bringing both of these in, we're going to go at an angle. And that sits just naturally on that woodwork. You've done that drop shadow with the green and the blue. We're going to press that down. We're going to come along with our little starfish that I've got here. And then for our little starfish, what I'm going to do is if I take my glue or if I come along with my actual dots here, so either your tacky glue or your dots, I'm going to then pop that one to the side and press that on there. We're going to come in there. We're going to bring in our small foam pads. Now these ones are our small elongated ones. So what we're going to do is we're going to use our scissors and we're just going to snip up. We want to make them that little bit thinner. So one can go on one side, one can go on the other. Bring back our card, take the backing off, and then that one we're just going to cross over and press. Then what we're going to do is bring in the anchor. For the anchor, we're going to then add our dots on. That can then sit to the bottom just here. And then if we come in with our little starfish, I'm going to come down to the bottom with the dots. We're just going to add that to the bottom, just into place here. Press it in, line it up, get all of these into position, give it a light little press before you're finished. Make sure it's all nice, it's secure. And then there we go. We've got our 5.5 by 7.5 larger card that we can see by building up the layers. So we've done some die cutting, mats and layers, stamping, colouring, offset and layering, and that is just one of many projects that you can do and you can create when it comes to our brand new collection from Crafters Companion, and that is of course Seize the Day. With the Seize the Day collection, you've got stamps, you've got dies, you've got folders, you've got stencils, but then if we go back to the stamps, you've got the scene of a stamp already done for you. Stamp it out colour with a few embellishment die cuts. That's all that you need to do to make a lovely 6x6 card. And that's exactly what we're going to be doing. So, to start with, let's do the mats and the layers for our card blank before we actually do the stamping and then the colouring. So I've taken one of the pattern paper and I've cut it to 5.25 inches by 5.25 inches, and I've given myself a little mat and layer when it comes to my white multi-purpose cardstock. So we're going to work all the way around the edges. I'm going to come in with a piece of that green linen cardstock that I've cut to 5.5 by 5.5. We're then going to press and place that one into place. Then on the back there, we're going to then add our tape once again. That's then going to go onto a piece of that really light blue linen cardstock, also from the Seize the Day collection, and I've cut that to 5.75 by 5.75. That can then have our tape around the edge all the way around, and then we can add that onto our card blank. I'm going to do it so it's a top fold card or a 10th fold card, and we're going to pop that one into place just there and press, and then there we go. That is the basis of our card blank done. What we're then going to do is we're going to bring in some of our Neenah cardstock. So we've got our Neenah cardstock, and then we're going to come in with the Adventure Awaits, that beautiful stamp set. And we will do some colouring, and we're going to use our earth brown blend and shades. We're also going to use our dark red blend and shades. We're then also going to be using our gold brown blend and shades. And then we're going to come along and we'll use a little bit of alpine green and also the brown grey blend. So that's my tri-blends that I'm using. So let's set them to the side. What I'm then going to do is we can then come along with my stamping platform. And the Neenah cardstock, I have cut that to 4 by 4 inches. We're going to take our stamp off, bring that into our stamping platform. I'm going to pop my Neenah cardstock into place. We're going to secure that with the magnetic discs, and then what we can then do is we can then bring in our boat scene. We're going to get that into roughly where we want it to be. So I'm going to come quite further down. So we've got the wreaths just down here at the sandbank, and then what we've then got is we've got all the sky along the top. So then once I'm happy with that, bring the disc just back in so that I know that they are exactly where I need them to. Move that back in. And then we're going to stamp that one. So we're going to press that in, and because we're using our alcohol ink, we're going to bring in our alcohol proof ink pad. So for that, we're going to ink up. Now I'm going to be using my Noir Black for this one. You could use your Flagstone or Pebble, or even Rustic Brown would be a good one to use as well. That's up to yourself, but this one is our Noir Black. Ink that up, we're going to twist, we're going to turn, and then we're going to then press that into position. So I like to keep one hand still, and we're going to move the other one all the way around. Press that in, and then you can see the good thing with the stamping platform is I've missed at the top there. So therefore, if the ink's not there, it's got to be there. So don't apply any more ink just yet. Go back in, press where you're missing, release, and we can see just about a tiny little bit there. We're just going to press that in. There we go, we've finished the design. So try and not put on any extra ink unless it's actually needed, which in these cases it's not. So we're going to take that away, and then we can start to do some colouring. To do some colouring, I'm going to bring in a little bit of what would be scrap cardstock. You can use scrap card at home, and we're going to come in with our brown. So let's go in with our earth brown blend and our earth brown shades. So that one, we're going to start with the blends, and I'm going to go in with the light tone first. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this in sections. So I'm going to start with the lightest tone, and I want to create that sweeping action, that movement around the curvature of the boat. So going in with the light tone, and we're going to come all the way down. Don't worry at the moment about the highlight lines that are already there for you. We're just wanting to essentially prime our cardstock with the light tone. We're going to go with circular motions. We're going to come maybe about 2/3 of the way in. So let's work it back and forwards, round the sandbank, and then I'm going to come up to about here, finish that off there. So let's colour that in. I'm going to give that another coverage and coating within the light tone. If you're new to alcohol colouring, certainly when it comes to our tri-blends or any of our alcohol pens, that squeaking sound to start with is absolutely normal, so don't worry. Then going to come into the darker side of our tri-blends. And for this one, we're going to come in right into that right-hand side where you'd find that it's going to be quite dark. Once again, start to lay that down. We're going to blend that out. And we're going to come maybe about 1/3 of the way in. So circular motions, once again. Blend that dark tone. And because we've essentially primed our cardstock beforehand with that light tone, what's happening is that's going to give us our seamless blend in a moment. Then at this point, we're going to cross over to the mid-tone. And we don't want to go over what we've just done there with the dark tone. We just want to cross over. So we're just going to cross over, and we're going to blend that dark into that light that we've already laid down. And then we're going to come along about another third of the way. So let's then blend that in to then cross over into the light tone. So going back into the light tone, and we're going to finish that off. Before I go into the left-hand side and work my way in, you can already see you're starting to get that shape, you're starting to get that darkness. So I'm going to go back into that right-hand side. I've just gone back to the darker tone again, just enhancing that a little bit more. You can always go back over, but want to then cross over to the deeper shades. So this is still earth brown shades, but what this one is this is the deeper tones. And for this, I'm going to go into EB7, so that's the darkest, and then I'm just going to come right into the corner. I'm going to twist it around to make it easier for myself. I'm going to come all the way down, and then I'm just going to cross underneath here, and then just into some of these little panels here that we've got. I'm just going to then bring in little wispy action lines that you can see, so you can start to see how you're creating that shape. So we're going to continue going within the opposite side. So back to our blends, earth brown blend, and we're going to work our way in. So we're going to work our way in and come all the way down, and we're going to come about 2/3 of that way, and we're going to leave that little bit of light source, preserving that highlight. So let's just work that into place. I'm going to come close up, but just leaving that little bit of the highlight into the dark. So I'm going to go into the dark there, 2/3 of the way in, with that darker tone into the mid. We're going to blend that out about another third of the way into here, and then we're going to finish off with that lighter tone once again. Blend that out, come close up, leaving that little bit of the highlight. We're going to go back into that darker tone, just as we've done on that right-hand side. We're going to come back in with that darker tone, enhance that a little bit more, and then we're going to go back now into the earth brown shades, and once again, we're going to go into the deeper tone, which is EB7, and then we're just going to cross just in. So we're just picking out that fine little detail. When we've got little wispy lines, we can always just add tiny little bits, and you can see we're really starting to shape that actual ship. We're then going to come in with the red. So let's do a little bit with the red here. And this time we're going to use the dark red blend and the dark red shades. So sticking with the dark red blends, I'm going to go in with that light tone. And as I have been doing previously, we're just going to come in with that lighter tone. And we're going to go in and we're going to lay that light tone down. Once we've gone in and lay that tone down, we're going to go into the darker side. With the darker side, we're going to come in, lay it in down the left-hand side, a little bit at the top corner. We're going to do the same down into here. Add that in. We're then going to cross into the mid-tone, blend that out, blend that out. And then what we can then do is go back into that light tone and blend that one out once again, so you can see you're starting to get that shape. I'm going to go back into that darker tone again, just into this corner here. That's all that I'm going to do there. And then when it comes to the dark red shades, we're going to go into DR7, the darkest one, and then just right into that corner there, we're going to come down and along. We're going to come down and along and come all the way down. And again, look at the shape that you're starting to create. Really makes it stand out, really makes it 3D. And then, well, let's just do a little bit of the sandbank before I bring in the one that I've already done. So for this, we're going to use the gold brown blend and the gold brown shades. So let's just do a little bit into this little section here. So for this one, I'm going to go in with that light tone, lay that down, working around and along the sandbanks. So let's lay that lighter tone. I would still do these section by section. I'm then going to cross over into that darker tone. And for this one, I'm going to add just a little bit into the right-hand corner. For this one, a little bit into the left-hand corner. I'm going to work our way round and along. We're going to cross into the mid-tone, and we're going to blend that out. And blend the right-hand side out. Back into the light tone, blend that out, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the gold brown shades. I'm going to go in the lightest, GB6, and we're just going to cross right into the corner, right into there, right round. I'm going to come along as well into these little wispy lines, and then we're going to continue to build that imagery. Once we've done that, and then just gone around the edge with some of our ocean blue water reactive, added a little matte layer. So matte layered that onto a bit of the green linen cardstock, and then also onto a little bit of that light blue. And then that's it. You're just continuing to build up when it comes to the tri-blends, tri-blend brushes, Classique pens, or of course, you can watercolor with these. Just use your watercolor card, and then of course, your waterproof ink pad, and then your water-based mediums, so you've got that option as well. But once we've got it to where we want it, I'm then going to bring in some foam pads. So let's add our height to the back. So we're going to layer our foam pads onto the back, corner, corner, and then a couple within the middle. Bring back in our card blank, make sure I've got that the right way. Take the backing off, and then I've got some additional embellishment stamping dies that we can add to this. That's going to be framed within the middle, just here. What we can then do is bring in our die cuts. So these are our die cuts that I've done from this set. We've gone in with a starfish and used our burnt orange tri-blend to colour in. We've gone in as well, and then we can see we're starting to stamp and colour these. So these were your brown grey and also your dark red, and same with that one there. Adding our sentiment. So we've brought in Never Stop Exploring. All components of these are within the Seize the Day collection. So set that one to the side. I don't need that one. Bring that one in. Never Stop Exploring. We're going to add that onto a foam pad. So if we bring that to the side, just off to the left-hand side, I'm going to have it just eking over the edge. We're going to come in with that one. We're going to add our dots onto the back of one side. So if I add our dots onto the back of one, we're going to tuck that underneath. So we're getting lots of scale, we're getting height, we're getting low, and we've got that tactile feel as well. We're going to come in, let's just chop one of our foam pads down ever so slightly. So we don't need that overly big, we just need a thinner one into there. Chop it off. That's then going to go to the base here. Press that in, and then the last couple of bits, we're going to go in with a starfish. So we're going to go in with the dots to the back. That's going to go into there and press. And then we're going to start to position these just so they're coming off the page. So that one's going to go there. And then for the last one, on the back of the starfish, once again with our dots, that's going to come up into there. Press that in, hold all that in, and then there we go. We've got our 6x6 card, whereas we've then predominantly done our stamping and building the colour, building up that shade when it comes to our tri-blend pens. You can choose your colour and medium of choice, but then it now creates that lovely 6x6 card. It's creating that scene already done for you when it comes to that stamp design. You just then need to embellish it till your heart's content. You can keep it quite simple, or of course you can go to town with all of that full collection. But that is another one that you can be doing from our brand new Crafters Companion collection, which is called Seize the Day. Now, when it comes to our Seize the Day collection, all about under the sea, you can start to get inky with all your techniques, and that's what we're going to do when it comes to this one here. This one here is going to be using our 2D embossing folder, and we're going to be bringing in our Crafters Companion Sunbeam Shimmer Watercolour palette. But to start off, what we're going to have to do is a little bit of blending. So I'm going to come in with a piece of watercolour cardstock. Now my watercolour cardstock I've cut to 3 3/4 by 5 3/4. And before we do any embossing, we're going to bring in our water reactive. We're going to bring in parakeet, fuchsia, and we're also then going to be bringing in some ocean blue as well. Now, what we're going to do to start with is we're just going to do a little bit of inking all the way throughout this base of our watercolour card. So I'm going to go in with our ocean blue. I'm going to take some of that ink off, and what we're going to do is we're going to lightly go around the edges. Now, with the ocean blue, we are going to be coming all the way in, but I'm just going to start off with that outer edge. We want to get that nice blue down on our watercolour cardstock. We're going to keep going back on itself, and we're just building it up slightly. We don't want to go too heavy-handed. We're just wanting to get that light pressure of the ocean blue with our blending pad. I'm going to go in just a little bit more, take some off on the glass mat, because you can always keep coming back and adding it on, because the glass mat or your craft mat or a tile is a non-porous surface. So we're going to go all the way in once again. So towards the centre, we've just got a light little tint of the ocean blue. So we're just going to then build it up once again, adding that little bit more just to that outer edge here, just so that we've got that sharp blue edge. We're then going to then come into the last side, and then what we're going to do is we're then going to jump into the parakeet. Now the parakeet, what we're going to do with this one, once again, we're going to go really quite light. So I'm going to take some of that off to start with, and then we're just going to then edge that right on the very edge. So that's going to give us a real dark shade, just to the outer edge of our watercolour card. I'm not wanting to come all the way in. We just want to create that highlight outline. So I'm just going to go back on itself, and then what we're going to do is that's all we're doing with the parakeet. So we can move that one out the way. We can move the ocean blue, and then we're going to come in with the fuchsia here. Now when it comes to the fuchsia, we're going to do exactly as we've been doing beforehand. We're just going to go in, ink it up. We're going to take some of that off, because I don't want it to be strong when it comes to that colour. And then within the centre, I'm just lightly going to press. I'm keeping my blending tool relatively flat, and then we're just going to get that little hint of the fuchsia within the middle. I'm going to come back in with my blending pad that had the ocean blue, and I'm going to blend all of that together. So I'm using our rectangle blending squares, but what you can then do, use the circles if you want, or if you've got our blending brushes, you can use the blending brushes, but just so that we've got that nice blend. So we've got an overall look with the ocean blue. What we've then got is we've got the outer edge with the parakeet, and then we've got that little light blend in the middle when it comes to the actual fuchsia. Once we've got it to this stage, we're going to come in just with our water spritz here, just our Spectrum Noir water spritz, and you can either go straight onto your cardstock, or I like to go into my hand, spritz into my hand, and then I just flick. So I do a little bit of flicking with the hand, and then a little bit of spritzing with the water. We're just going to leave that just for a moment or two, because what that's going to do is that's going to do what we call the faux bleach. So that's going to lift up some of that ink. We're just going to leave that just a little bit longer, and then what we're going to do is press. Now, the longer you leave that, the more of the ink is going to lift. However, because we've gone quite light with the actual ink, it's not going to create such a bold faux bleach effect, but it's going to be enough just so you're starting to see little speckles all the way around. We can see all the way around here, but what we need to do is we need to dry it off. Then we just need to come in with our heat tool, and we just need to heat set that before we do our embossing with our folder. So you don't need to spend too long, just enough to dry out that cardstock. If you can leave it to dry at room temperature, it will dry relatively flat. If you are going to be heating it with your heat tool, it will start to bend and buckle. That's not a problem. All that you're going to do is you're just then going to flip it over on itself, heat it up once again, and then that's going to start to flatten it. And then once we've got that to the point that we want it, we've then got our background. We've got our subtle effect when it comes to the faux bleaching with the bubbles going all the way up. And then we're ready to come in with our embossing folder. So it is a 2D embossing folder. So what I want is I want all of that raised design to be standing proud. It's going to be pushing up towards our card. So therefore we're going to sit that into the middle, and then what we're then going to do is we're just going to then close that over. Now for a 2D embossing folder, when it comes to the Gemini, you would be your 2 cutting plates. And you can use your 2 cutting plates, but what I like to do is just add in my metal shim just to enhance that emboss that little bit more. So you'll see I've gone in for that base plate there. We've then got our metal shim, and then we've got our top plate. We're then going to come along to our Gemini. I'm using our G2, and we're just going to then feed that in. If you're using something like the MIDI, then of course you can use your folder, you can use the cardstock. You'll just need that purple shim with the MIDI. We're then going to take all these away. We're going to then lift. Then what we've then got is we've got our beautiful embossed detail when it comes to that under the sea design. You've got the fish, you've got the jellyfish, the starfish, and the wreath as well. Then we're at the point that we can start to do a little bit of colouring. So I'm going to go in with our sunbeam here. I've got some water here as well, and I've got a paintbrush as well. And then we're just going to have a colour. We're going to have a little play when it comes to the colours that we've got. And then let's take all these into position just here. Then let's go in, we're going to go in with the dandelion here. So we're going to go down into this one here. So let's start to ink our brush with our sunbeam. And then let's go in with the fish here. So what I want as well is I want to get that nice point when it comes to my paintbrush, which is exactly what I've got right now. So we can go in, dab a little bit more, start to pick up that colour and work that in. So we're just going to go over certain areas of the fish. And once it's dried, what's going to happen is you're going to get that incredible shimmer from the sunbeam. I'm going to go in sticking with the dandelion, and then let's go and we're going to start to paint over some of that coral wreath. So wherever we've got that emboss, what we're doing is we're going over it with the point of our paintbrush, and this one being the dandelion colour. Of course, you can choose whichever colour you want. If you want to mix it up, you can do. So we're just going to go in, work our way along. So instead of colouring in the lines of a stamp design, what we're doing is we're colouring the lines of this embossed detail. So let's pick that one up. Going to go back more with the dandelion, and even although we've got our ocean blue parakeet and that light bit of fuchsia, that shimmer from the sunbeam is still going to stand so proud, and it's going to create a really, really beautiful effect. I'm going to do a little bit more with the sunbeam just down into here. So we're just going to colour over, work our way down, following all of the embossed line, working our way just with the tip of the brush, and then we can then move on to, let's go in for the rainfall here. So a nice blue tone, cleaning my brush into the actual rainfall. So we're going to ink that up. Let's bring that in, get that nice sunbeam colour from the rainfall. This time we're going to go in with that jellyfish. So let's work our way into that aperture of the jellyfish. I'm going to take some of that excess water off just onto my glass mat for now. I'm going to pick up just a little bit more of that strength and colour, and then we're just going to following down. As I said before, instead of colouring in within a stamped outline, we're colouring on the embossed line. Let's then go in, let's do a little bit more here to the side, picking up that detail. Let's go in. Alternatively, you could be doing this with your water reactive inks. If you don't have our Sunbeam, you could be doing it with your pigments if you want to. Shimmer sprays, you can then spritz some onto your glass mat and pick the paint up from the shimmer sprays and colour with them. So lots of other ways you can colour if you don't have our shimmer and watercolour palettes. Let's just do one more little bit before we move on. We're then going to go, let's go into the Sunset Meadow. So we're going to go into the Sunset Meadow, giving that nice coppery orange tone. And this one, we're going to go into the starfish, working it in. And even although we've got the embossed detail, once the Sunbeam's dried, or whichever colour palette you choose to use, it's still going to stand proud. Let's go down into the fish. And then you would continue to colour all of the embossed detail that you've got. You don't have to do it all, you can do selective colouring if you want, but then I'm just going to take that excess colour off. Once that's dried, all that I would then do on a little bit of white multi-purpose, I would come along and I would mat that onto a little bit of white multi-purpose, and that's what we're going to be left with. So if I tilt that back and forward, you can see that shimmer from that Sunbeam just bursting out of those embossed lines. So that's our main topper. What I have also done as well is I'm going to bring in another piece of watercolour cardstock, and I'm going to go in with my waterproof. This is our Noir Black waterproof ink pad, and then we're also going to come in with our seashells. That is our stamp and our die as well. So let's take just this one seashell. And because this Sunbeam and Moonbeam, they are water-based, this is why we need our waterproof ink pad. Let's ink that up. Just the one shell, I've already got one already done, but I want to show you how we can then just stamp that in. Now, if you use the stamps on their own, they're fab. Start to create a collage, bring in any of your masking sheets, anything like that. But what we're going to do is use the die to go with it. And that just overlays all the way around the top, bringing in our low tack tape. We're going to hold this into place. I'm going to use my G2. Of course, you can be using your mini or your midi if you want to. But for this, because we're cutting it, we're going to do our base plate. We're also then going to be bringing in our frosted, magnetic, and then also our top plate. We're going to line that one up that you can see just here. So we've got our lines here, base plate, frosted, and then we've got our magnetic and top plate. Run that one through. That's then, of course, going to cut that outer edge. If you use the die on their own, that gives you an aperture, so things such as shakers, or ink through them, or spritz through them. Then we're going to bring that out. So if we pop that one out, and there we've got our shell that we can see just here. So if we bring in the shell, I'm going to come back in with my Sunbeam that we can see here. I'm going to move that there. Let's bring in my water once again. This time, let's go in with the horizon. So we're going to ink that up. We're going to go between the horizon and the chiffon as well, which is this kind of purpley lilac tone. And then we're going to come in, coat and colour. We're going to blend in with the chiffon in a moment. So let's just go in halfway down with the horizon. Let's just go in. It doesn't matter about the direction that you're going in at the moment, because we're just wanting to get a nice blend. Let's then go in chiffon now. Let's pick that one up. We're just going to go in with the colour with our paintbrush. I'm going to go around that outer edge, and I'm just tapping and dabbing with my paintbrush. And then we're going to come in, and then what we're doing is we're just going to come and pull and blend those colours together. I'm going to take some of that excess off. I've got a little bit of kitchen roll, kitchen towel, dab that off, and then we're just going to blend these ones together. So we can see, once we've got them come down into the side. Once dried, you're still going to get that epic shimmer from the sunbeam. And then that's all that we're going to do. That's all that we're doing when it comes to that one. Let's move our water out the way. Let's then come in with our card blank. So I've got some of these layers already cut. So when it comes to the layers, I've gone in with one of the pattern papers. I've cut this one to 4.5 by 6.5. So let's bring in our tape runner. And for this card, what I've done is I've brought in my own white cardstock, which is just my white multi-purpose. That's then going to give us a nice fine matting layer, which I used my guillotine. Set that over the top and press. I'm going to then come back in with my tape runner, work our way round, add that onto that gorgeous blue linen cardstock that we get from the collection. And when it comes to that blue linen cardstock, I've cut that to 4 3/4 by 6 3/4. That then means it's going to fit absolutely nicely and perfectly onto our 5 by 7 card blank. So let's then pop that onto there and press. We're going to bring in our finished embossed coloured design that we've got there. I'm then going to bring in just a couple of foam pads here. So I've only got some small ones, but that will do. We're going to go into the corners here. And then if you do only have small ones, don't ever worry. Just make sure that you stabilise that centre because you don't want it to dip underneath. So let's go in there. That's more than enough. Taking these off. You can keep it flat. You can go in with your glue gel. Now let's just go in with our pads. That's then going to sit nicely into the middle. Pop that one on. I'm going to come in with my little seashell. And I've also taken one of the sentiments that I've already stamped out, sending oceans of love, both of which, the sentiment and the seashell, that's then going to go onto our card. So let's pop that one on into there, there, and then there. Bringing in our sentiment. So there's the top of my sentiment. So I'm going to go in with my foam pads along the top. And the reason being is I'm going to overhang ever so slightly towards the bottom. So let's take these off. That's then going to sit to the bottom here, creating that little bit of an overhang. Press that in, and then coming in with our seashell, take the backing off. I'm then going to tuck that one to the side, pressing that one in, and then there we go. We've got our 5 by 7 card that I've created with the papers, the linen cardstock, a little bit of my own white multi-purpose card. We've then gone in with the parakeet, the ocean blue, and also the fuchsia water reactive ink pad. Create that little bit of a blend, faux bleach, emboss, coloured over the top when it comes to our Sunbeam Shimmer palettes, and that is what you're going to be left with when it comes to the Seize the Day collection from Crafters Companion.